let's get into, the team that you covered, the team that you are now on the air for. So, they're now 26-10 on the season, which is giving some people, a little cause for concern amongst the fans. Once again, maybe not with the media, but with the fans, because they only lost 18 games last year. They're still really dominant on the road, but just what do you think has been their biggest challenge, as opposed to what they encountered last year?
You know, I mean, I think it might sound too simple, but I think it's what it is. Everybody's getting up to play the Celtics. Like every single night, you're going to get a team's best
Mhm.
shot. It's a long season. It's hard to do that every night. It's hard to raise your level to, 10 out of 10 every night. And for the opposing team, like when they play the reigning champs, they'll do it. And then you can look at the rest of their schedule. Like a great example is Toronto. We played the Raptors at home earlier this year and went to overtime. And, Toronto had just gotten smoked. I think they had lost 10 in a row at that time. Like they were playing like garbage. And they came to our place and took the champs to overtime. And I don't think we played that badly in that game. It's just like RJ Barrett goes for 25, 15, and 10.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen very often. Like Jakob Poeltl makes 15 of 19, has 35 points. That doesn't happen very often. It's happened a lot this year where a team will come into our building or we'll go into theirs. You mentioned the road record, Ray. We've still been pretty dominant on the road, but
Mhm.
every team is going to get up to play the Celtics, and that includes the Thunder, who we just saw over the weekend. And the Thunder came out a little flat, I would say, in the first half, but you saw the way they cranked it up. I think both teams were playing like it was a game 7.
Yeah.
So there are specific games where when the Celtics want to like pull the rug off the car or whatever, like let it out of the garage and show everybody exactly how good they are. You see it. But pretty much every team is giving that type of effort against the Celtics. And, a lot of the times that they have lost this season, again, you don't want to oversimplify it, but this team shoots a ton of threes. And some nights they're going to fall. Most nights they're going to fall. Some nights they're not. You're gearing up for making yourself unbeatable in a 7-game series. And I think the idea is we're not going to have 4 awful shooting nights basically in a row, and we'll be fine in the playoffs again. But last year, I think there was a little bit more of like an FU mentality, and they were on a tour just ripping through the league. This year, like they won the championship, they know what they need to do, and I expect them to be ready once April rolls around.
So you mentioned the threes. Do you think that that 3-point shooting, maybe not just for the Celtics, but maybe let's just talk about it for the league, is that becoming a problem? Like, do you think analytics is playing way too much of a role in it? Or for a team like the Celtics, Golden State, is that just their game?
I wouldn't blame it on analytics. I think that's like a blanket statement, a blanket word people throw on to say like it's not really an analytic to say 3 is greater than 2. I think we can all figure
Right.
that out. Um, I really don't think it's a problem. I think people are overreacting to it and looking for a reason why ratings are down. To me, it's very nuanced. Maybe that's part of it, but I would just ask fans who are complaining about too many threes, what do you prefer? Because if you look at the NBA 20 years ago, there were a lot of awful mid-range jumpers being taken, and a lot of those scores were like in the 70s. That's bad. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I think the game is actually pretty physical, which flies in the face of what a lot of people say. Like it's not, you can't hand check. It's not physical. Everything's. I don't think that's true, and we're seeing it every night up close and personal. To me, it's super physical, and I think offenses have been optimized to the point that it feels like a math equation for some people, and that's not quite as fun. But let's just be honest, like it's not Joe Mazzulla's problem. It's his job is not to entertain the fan. If the NBA feels like there are too many 3-pointers being taken, which I don't really think there are, but if the NBA feels like it, then it's up to them to change the rules. And keep in mind, I mean, you don't want to gimmick up the 3-point line too much. Like I don't think taking away the corner 3 is going to solve anything. I think that would muck up spacing. I think putting a cap on the number of threes a team can shoot or make in a game, to me that's like
Ridiculous.
too far. But with that being said, like the 3-point line didn't always exist. I think people looked at the 3-point line itself as a gimmick when it first came into the league.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I think there are other reasons that ratings are down. To me, a bigger culprit is players not playing all the time,
Mhm.
and several high-profile players telling the fans that the regular season doesn't matter. That's a problem, and we're lucky to cover a team where guys actually enjoy playing. To me, that's the
So,
number one
how
reason.
they then how do they work around it? 'Cause I'll get back to the 3 thing in a minute, but I wanna focus on that last point you made there about, the whole load management thing. Because to me personally, I hate it. Once again, we grew up watching Paul Pierce, Antoine Walker, obviously, with KG, Paul and Ray, like those guys wanted to be out there every night. So it's not just this era; even probably long before we were born. The Larry Birds, Michaela Parishes, Dave Collins, so on, so you name it. Those guys wanted to be out there and they gave it their all. So I'm just like, how do they combat that? Because at the same time, it's like, yo, I get resting a guy if he's legitimately hurt, right? It's the difference between being hurt and injured. So if you're hurt and you can't be out there, okay, cool. But how do you think they should combat that? Because to me, guys sitting out whenever just because they hurt their pinky is a joke. Like it's out of pocket.
Yeah, I agree. I think like what Jimmy Butler is doing in Miami right now is embarrassing for the NBA. I think whatever's going on with Zion Williamson in New Orleans is a horrible look for the NBA. Kawhi Leonard actually came back, which I'm shocked by. I didn't really expect him to play all season, but he's back, thankfully. Thanks for showing up. It's January. Um, they tried this thing with the 65 game minimum for awards. I don't know if that's really going to do anything. Like if you look at Joel Embiid, who's probably the most frustrating star in the NBA right now, he already won his MVP. Why does he care if he can't win another one? He comes out and says before the season, "Yeah, I'm not going to play on back to backs." First of all, a terrible look for him, and just a completely unnecessary move, just a total self inflicted win. Why would you say that? Why
Right.
would you say that? Just say you need to rest. No one blames Al Horford for resting on back to backs, but Al Horford's 38 and comes off the bench for this team when they're healthy. Joel Embiid is a guy who won MVP a couple of years ago. Uh, I guess, I guess the answer is I think it has to be a couple of small things. The 65 game minimum may help, and then also if you're going to give out like awards at the end of the season for scoring champion or rebounding champion or whatever, do it with totals instead of averages because
Mhm.
I think maybe, a big reason why Joel Embiid will sit out entirely as opposed to playing 15, 20 minutes to get his body ready for the playoffs is because he doesn't want his averages to go down. That's something. But I don't
Right.
know, dude. I mean, you could go as far as like not guaranteeing contracts or paying them on a per game basis, but that's going to be impossible to pull off with a players association.
Right.
So I don't know. I think the best you can hope for, Ray, is just hoping that teams realize that load management doesn't work. It
What
really doesn't. Like the guys who always sit out end up getting hurt.
Exactly, and I mean, but it's the same thing in football too. Like all these guys resting in week 18, and it's just like, yo, like now you don't play for another week or two, and now it's I didn't stretch enough, or I didn't go to the trainer enough, or I wasn't in the pool enough, and it's just like all these things happen. The next thing you know, you're like, oh man, like well maybe if I played, I'd be more loose. Yeah, you think like I just don't understand it. Like once again, even if I'm getting 150,000, I'm out there.
Mhm.
Give me the vet men. Like I'm out there. Like there's no way that I'm not going to be out there playing as much as I can. And to me, it's a disrespect to those that are the 12th or 13th man on the team that never get to play, right? But they're out there, they're in practice every day, they're getting treatment every day. Um, but they still can't get a shot because of the MBs or anybody else that's in front of them that's taking the chance or taking the time to get back on the court. But that's a joke. But the design out there, he's actually going to be on as for recording. I think he's playing the next game later on this week, so he should be back on the court.
We'll see
I
how
don't
that
know. I
goes.
really want to stay at 6. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're in New Orleans. I mean, you've been down there to Big Easy. The food is amazing. So,
Yeah.
he looks like me on the court. So it's wow. So I'm just like, I'm like, hey man, I'm like, once again, I get it. I've been down there, but it's like, hey brother, like you want to get in shape, you want to be better. You got to be better. But I wanted to get back to the 3-point thing because you were saying about kind of ways to maybe combat that as well. Um, I've been on the show. We've been on the show for 4 years, going on 5 years now. Um, I'm a big uh I'm into 3 level scoring. I just am. Layups, mid range, and then the three. Um, there was an old school drill that my coach, Coach Richards, would teach us: 15, 17, 19, 19, 17, 15. Right? Score from everywhere so that that you're basically unguardable. Um, when you're shooting against they're wide open, I get it. And the numbers say if you're wide open, you're an NBA player, you most likely you should make that. But when you're 7 to 31, because I heard you on the broadcast, I listened to you. I was home, I was on my couch, and I heard 7 to 31, right? You're not saying 18 to 30, which is 60%. You're not saying 20 to 31. 7 whatever word you want to say, and there was 7 to 31 at one point, and I think it was 9 to 48 from the game. That's insane. I don't care what happened against the Knicks opening night when they almost broke the record. And I think that's part of what's going on too. They tried to break the record, and the basketball gods have been on them ever since. But that's a whole other thing. We can get into that. You can respond to that. But I just think, so what do you say to people like me and like Mike that like the 3-level scoring? What's your response to that?
How would you have attacked OKC's defense?
You
I'm
said how,
asking.
you said
That's not
how
rhetorical. I want to know, how would you have attacked their defense?
How would I attack? I mean, to me, when you don't have Chet out there, which I'm not saying that Chet's some big shot blocker, but
He
I
is.
do think keep attacking the basket. I'm always going to be a thing of that. Attack the basket. There was some mid range there, but I feel like if you mix it up enough, once again, if you miss a shot, you miss the shot. But it's like, to me, seeing you jack up 3 after 3 at times, not all the time, but at times, it's like, yo, try something a little different. Get to the cup. Because the thing is, they're not calling fouls for the Celtics, but that's because when you get looked at as a jump shooting team, they don't call the fouls. And that's always been like that. Even when guys in the 2000s, if you was a jump shooter, they wouldn't call fouls for you. It's like, well, you don't really get to the cup. Well, why would we call it? So I feel like that's where they're getting that disrespect. So that's kind of how I see it right now. But OKC is very tough defensively, so I'm not taking away from them. I just feel like there has to be more of a balance.
I think there was some settling. I mean, to me, mid-range is not the answer. Because a mid-range jumper, OKC will press out on you. They're gonna try not to switch. They're not gonna help because they have the best defenders in the NBA, and they did that without Alex Caruso, who's been first team all defense.
Mm.
They're a unique challenge defensively, and I'll say this. I mean, don't forget about, the first back-to-back of this road trip were against Minnesota and Houston, two of the best defensive teams in the league. The Celtics won twice. They scored 118 and 109 doing what they do. I don't think you can let one bad shooting night or one bad shooting quarter change the way that you attack offensively,
Right, right.
because that's like that's the whole MO of the team. That's how, and it starts at the top. It starts with Joe Mazzulla. Like, the Celtics had their worst 3-point shooting night of the season against Oklahoma City. They were sub 20% for the first time all year, and they still had a chance to win that game. I mean, a couple of those shots go in. Like, that's basketball. You guys play basketball. You know how it is. Sometimes the ball goes in and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So not overreacting to one bad shooting night, to me, is key. Now, that being said, like, you look at the first half, the Celtics score 65. They're dominating the paint,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a better strategy yesterday.
Right,
It was
and
more,
that's
it
what
was
I'm
more
saying.
touches in the
Actual
paint.
balance. Yeah, I'm with you, Drew. I like I said, I know who pretty well, but it's just like sometimes I'm like, man, like, and once again, we're kids of the 2000s. Like, we've seen guys dominate down low, and I know it's a different game, so I don't want to sound like get off my lawn, but it's just like some nights we got to realize, like you said, 27 in the second half, it's gross, regardless of how you want to how you want to slice it. It's gross. So I mean, like I said, I personally I thought they were gonna beat OKC over the weekend and then maybe lose to Denver. Maybe they get motivated from the loss against OKC and blow the doors off Denver. That'd be great because Denver hasn't been, the team that they've been in the past, even though they played better with Russ as of late. So, I look forward to watching y'all on the call tomorrow night. But, I wanted to get into Jayson Tatum. Obviously he's been gunning for MVP all season. Obviously, he's had many notches on his belt. Finally hit a game winner. Well, he's had some game winners, but at the buzzer, he got the game winner this year. But do you see a path for him getting to the MVP?
Not this year. Not this year, which is a bummer. I mean, he's good enough for it. I think if the circumstances were different, he would have a chance. But his best argument is going to be team success. And the Celtics won 68 games last year, and he didn't win it. So It's not going to happen. Did we win 68 last year? Do I have that number right?
Well, they were 64 and 18.
64. Thank you. Thank you. So they
Mhm.
64 games last year, and he didn't win it. They won the East by double digit games, and he didn't win it. And we just saw SGA in person. The dude's ridiculous, and
Yeah.
he's like about it every night. He does that. He's averaging 33 points per game over the last almost 2 months, and he's super consistent. And he's putting up numbers. If you look at the way that he stacks the box score with rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals, he's on pace to do something that only MJ has ever done. And they're going to run away with the West. Like they're 30-5 right now. They won 15 games in a row if you look away from the NBA Cup. So Shea's going to have the team success argument over Tatum, and his numbers are going to be more impressive. And then you have Jokic, who, to me, I would vote for him for MVP because he impacts the game so much. If you look at their numbers with him on and off the floor, it's insane how they're one of the best teams in the league with him and one of the worst without him. So not this year. I don't think Tatum will get there, but he's still 26. I mean, I know Celtics fans like joke about people talking about his age so much, but he's still improving. He's only 19, man. I think he's still getting better. I really do. Like, to me, he's better than I've only been around the team for a couple of years, but seeing him last year and then seeing him this year, I think he's better this season than last. And
Yes.
he has improved as an all-around guy, impacting the game in a variety of ways every year. So do I think he can get there? Yeah. Is this the year? No.